My dad is the supreme golden divine dragon. My mom is the azure moon dragon, and I am a rare divine dragon hatchling, seen only once in a millennium. But my clan constantly wants to devour me, simply because I have a brother. The nature of true dragons is to raise only one offspring per litter. If multiple dragon eggs are produced, they will eat the one with the inferior appearance. The radiance of my dragon scales was not as dazzling as my brother's. Thus, I became the one they abandoned. Although my parents didn't choose to eat me, they still threw me into the most dangerous abyss, to fend for myself in the dungeon. Falling down from the first floor of the dungeon, I saw countless monsters within. 10th floor, 20th floor. Finally, I landed on the 60th floor. Here lies a dense jungle. The giant leaves helped cushion most of the impact. I fell to the ground, my body aching in severe pain. Staggering forward, the pain in my hind legs made it hard to advance. My leg was broken, and my body suffered multiple injuries. Plus, I was starving. Even if no predators found me, I would still starve to death here. Right at that moment, a snake with purple scales slithered past my eyes. It had many red stripes on its body and was about the size of a palm. I couldn't find any information about it in my inherited memories. I didn't know if it was edible, but I had no other choice now. I could only swallow it in one bite. It was the only way I could survive. The snake tasted awful, but I forced myself to swallow it down. A warm current flowed into my body. The energy obtained from digesting it healed my right leg. My other external wounds were also healing at a visible rate. Now I could walk and run. This way, I could hunt other creatures to fill my stomach. But just as I took a step, a piercing pain came from my right leg. The pain almost made me lose consciousness. Strange noises constantly echoed in my ears. I realized I was poisoned. Forcing myself up, I ran toward a pool of water. Along the way, I fell to the ground more than once. But I remembered my father's cold eyes, remembered how my mother threw me into the dungeon, and remembered my brother's disdainful look. These memories supported me to stand up again and again. Walking towards the pool, I knew I was saved. This was the spring of life. As long as I drank its water, the poison in my body would be cured. However, I still couldn't hold on to reach the spring of life. I collapsed on the ground, my fingers just touching the spring water, my eyes full of unwillingness. Damn it, just one step away. When I woke up again, it was already night. I was still alive. I could feel that the pain in my body had vanished. I tried to stand up and found that I had actually grown taller. I went to the spring of life for some water, only to find the small pool completely dried up. I could only explore aimlessly in the dark. After walking for dozens of kilometers, I finally found the footprints of other monsters. It was a herd of magic horned deer. I followed their footprints forward. Such a massive herd must have a fixed watering hole. Before long, I found a small path, and the herd of magic horned deer was drinking by the river. The leader of the deer looked around, alert to any potential threats. In this herd of magic horned deer, only the leader was a peak, tier 1 monster. The rest had just entered the monster category. I moved toward the river through the grass, trying my best not to disturb the herd. I planned to replenish my hydration first, then wait for a chance to hunt one to fill my stomach. When I reached the water's edge to drink, my reflection appeared in the river. My original golden skin had disappeared. It was replaced by a purple-black body. Some red stripes covered my right leg, and there was a pale blue rune on my right hand. What happened to me? But I had no time to overthink. The deer herd had already started moving elsewhere. I quickly gulped down some water and rushed towards the herd. I charged at the magic horned deer at the very end of the line. It was a doe with no horns on its head. I bit down hard on her neck, but my body was too small, and my teeth couldn't fully pierce her windpipe, causing her to cry out. This cry drew the attention of the entire herd. The leader's horns emitted a white light, and a moment later, a wind blade shot towards me. I hastily let go of the deer I was biting and dodged away from my original spot. The deer I had bitten had red steam rising from its wound. Shortly after, it struggled and collapsed to the ground. I didn't know what was going on. This wasn't an ability I possessed. The deer leader kept staring at me intensely, its eyes filled with rage, looking as if it wanted to kill me. Its horns continuously flashed with white light, firing wind blades at me one after another. I couldn't dodge in time, and my arm was slashed by a wind blade. I was already weak from starvation. Though the wound wasn't large, it wouldn't heal, and it kept dripping fresh blood. I had to find a way to recover my stamina to deal with it. I immediately made up my mind and dashed toward the corpse. Taking a huge bite of meat, I swallowed it before I could even chew. My body regained some energy, and the wound healed along with it, but it felt completely different from previous healings. This time it actually felt somewhat cold, as if soaked in spring water. I had no time to study the changes in my body. The deer leader shot several more wind blades at me. After dodging the wind blades, I charged straight at the deer leader. The leader lowered its head, baring its sharp horns, and charged at me. It was so fast I couldn't react at all. Tossed into the air by its horns, I smashed into a giant boulder. I was left completely disoriented. The deer leader swiftly charged at me again. Those horns made me feel the threat of death. Just as it was about to kill me, a massive thunderclap echoed from nearby, immediately followed by a lightning bolt that struck the entire herd dead. A violent tremor came from the ground, and I sensed a powerful aura approaching here. I looked towards the source of the sound, and saw electric arcs flashing deep in the forest. A pair of massive eyes suddenly appeared. I recognized the creature approaching. It was an adult Regidragon, a type of subdragon. It's known for its formidable attack power, and is considered a top-tier combatant among subdragons. I'm done for. I'm dead meat. I closed my eyes in despair, but after waiting a while, the biting pain I imagined didn't come. Feeling confused, I opened my eyes. That giant Regidragon didn't attack me. Instead, it sniffed me thoroughly. The electrical organs on its back were shut off. I could sense it was a bit confused. Although subdragons possess immense combat power, they don't have very high intelligence. Perhaps it recognized my scent as one of its own. It slowly backed away. At this moment, my stomach growled. The Reggie dragon walked towards the magic horned deer herd. It took the corpse of the deer leader and placed it in front of me. A faint voice entered my mind. It was from the Reggie dragon in front of me. Eat. Without hesitation, I opened my mouth and devoured the food before me in large bites. My wounds were healed, and my stamina slowly recovered. For the first time in so many days, I actually felt full. Before long, I ate the entire deer, and I fell into a deep slumber. I hadn't rested for a single moment these past few days. Now that I was full, drowsiness hit me. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in a cave. Beneath me was a small nest made of dry grass. Beside me were two little Reggie dragons playing around. They were only slightly larger than me. The Reggie dragon that brought me back was nowhere to be seen. I stood up, and the two little Reggie dragons noticed me too. They walked towards me, looking at me with examining eyes, seemingly curious about where I came from. The bolder one shook its body, and the electrical organs on its back flashed with sparks. The other one did the same, its back crackling with electricity. They looked at me, their faces showing a hint of anticipation. I thought to myself, this must be their unique way of greeting, but I'm not a Reggie dragon. I can't discharge electricity, so I can't respond to them. Sigh. At this moment, the mother Regis dragon's call came from the cave entrance. Hearing it, the two little Regis dragons happily walked out. I was a bit confused. One of the little Regis dragons walked up to me and tugged at my claw with its mouth, seemingly wanting me to go out together. When we stepped out of the cave, the huge corpse of a tusked elephant lay outside. The two little Regis dragons went forward and began to enjoy this delicious meal. At this moment, my stomach growled again. So, I also boldly stepped forward and started eating the meat. After eating our fill, the two little Regis dragons continued playing, while I focused on sensing the power within my body. It was then that I noticed that the edges of my underdeveloped wings had grown some white patterns. I remembered that when I first arrived here, the snake I had eaten, an unrecorded species of snake, had the exact same pattern on its back as the one now on my leg. It was truly bizarre, but I had no clue what these patterns meant. After staying in the cave for a few days, I felt the warmth of a home for the first time. The mother Regis dragon cared for us deeply, and would go out hunting alone every day. The little Regis dragons hovered around me daily, playing with me. Every few days, the mother Regis dragon would teach us different survival skills. Today was the day to go out and learn. After leaving home, I looked up at the sky. There was no sun, yet it was as bright as day. This was a characteristic of the dungeon. I kept looking at our surroundings. Deep in the forest, some magical beasts were watching us. But wary of the mother Regis dragon's peak tier 3 strength, they didn't dare to act rashly. The mother Regis dragon brought us to a riverbank. Underneath the water, dense schools of fish could be seen swimming. This was a type of fish called piranhas. Their individual strength was very weak, but if one accidentally fell into the water, even a massive body like the Regis dragons would be devoured in an instant. This species of fish couldn't come ashore, making them perfect targets for the little Regis dragons to practice lightning. The two little Regis dragons tried hard to discharge electricity into the water from their organs, but the effect was minimal. Suddenly, lightning flashed on the mother Regis dragon's back. Countless electrical currents merged into a giant lightning pillar, blasting directly into the water. Countless piranhas were instantly electrocuted. The two little ones followed her example, and finally managed to hit the water's surface. Some piranhas that had poked their heads out were struck by the lightning. Seeing that their attacks were effective, the little Regis dragons jumped up and down in joy. But right at that moment, I heard a tide-like rumbling coming from afar. I looked closely at the water's surface. Aside from some piranhas jumping out, there were no other sounds. Then there was only one possibility. It was one of the most terrifying killers in the dungeon, the army ants. The mother Regis dragon also immediately became alert. She called the three of us to her side. The electrical organs on her back lit up, forming an electric ring around us. In the distance, a black tide swept toward us. If you looked closely, you would realize that these were actually finger-sized ants. They were indeed army ants. Each army ant only possessed tier 1 strength, but there were millions of them right now. Fortunately, the electric ring kept the army ants at bay. Any army ant that touched the ring was burnt to a crisp. But immediately, more army ants swarmed up. I originally thought they would leave since they couldn't break through, but I didn't expect them to have locked onto us. Hundreds of thousands of army ants actually used their bodies to form a bridge upwards, trying to invade from above us. Realizing their intention, the mother Regis dragon had to expend more stamina to turn the lightning into a protective shield. The army ants attacking from above were electrocuted one after another, but they didn't give up. This couldn't go on forever. The mother Regis dragon's stamina would eventually run out, and when that happened, only death would await us. So, we had to find a way to break the deadlock. The two little Regis dragons also channeled their lightning to attack the swarm. I suddenly remembered the magical beast I had bitten to death. I looked at the fiery red pattern on my right foot, and tried to use my energy to activate the rune. I breathed fire forward. Flames spanning dozens of meters spewed from my mouth. The army ants caught in it were all roasted into charcoal. A path was torn open through the army ant legion. Seeing this, the mother Regis dragon led us as we charged out of the encirclement, and we ran back towards our home. In the 3 months following the ant swarm encounter, I thoroughly researched my own abilities. I possess the power to devour other creatures. As long as I eat them, I can acquire the appearance of that magical beast. This isn't a bloodline ability. My bloodline only grants me the brute strength of a golden divine dragon. This might be a special skill I awakened. With this ability, I would be able to gain power rapidly. Over the 3 months, I devoured many surrounding creatures, but their abilities mostly revolved around pure strength, which wasn't of much use for my growth. My body has now grown to nearly 2 meters in length. Although the increase in size isn't massive, my other aspects have changed significantly. Those wings can now support me in brief flights, and the color of my scales has deepened. I looked at the gray sky. Over the past few days, fewer and fewer wild beasts have appeared around us. This could only mean one thing. A higher-tier apex predator had arrived in this area. Even the mother Regis dragon seemed somewhat anxious. We were resting in the cave when a wolf, covered in blood and full of scars, fled inside. This wolf's right eye had been slashed off by something, leaving bone visible beneath the wound. It glared fiercely at the mother Regis dragon. This was a tier 4 magical beast, the Inferno Wolf, but it had been severely wounded by an unknown entity and intruded into our cave while escaping. This apex predator, which once dominated a territory, was now as pathetic as a beaten dog. In extreme panic, the Inferno Wolf gathered flames in its mouth and charged at the mother Regis dragon. At such close range, the mother Regis dragon didn't have time to discharge electricity. She could only engage in physical combat, bitten by the wolf's fangs, leaving 4 puncture wounds. The mother Regis dragon howled in pain. She struck out with her sharp claws at the Inferno Wolf, inflicting several deep gashes on its body. The 2 little Regis dragons hid deep inside, trembling. I kept my eyes locked on the battlefield. If the mother Regis dragon were defeated, we would have absolutely no chance of survival. I channeled a wind blade and aimed it at the Inferno Wolf's eye. It completely failed to notice my movement. With a precise strike hitting its mark, its body was paralyzed by excruciating pain. Seeing this opportunity, the mother Regis dragon blasted a lightning pillar at the Inferno Wolf, killing it instantly. The battle was over, but the oppressive feeling in the air only deepened. I knew that the entity chasing the Inferno Wolf was approaching. I looked toward the cave entrance. In the darkness stood a shadow over 10 meters tall. It held a giant axe in its right hand and dangled a wolf's head from its left. It was the companion of this Inferno Wolf. It wasn't until it neared the cave that I saw its face clearly, and I instantly broke into a cold sweat. It was a Minotaur, a tier 5 magical beast, one of the kings of the dungeon's 60th floor. It wore armor crafted from the bones of an ankylosaurus. The giant axe in its hand was still dripping with blood. The horrific wound on that Inferno Wolf's eye was undoubtedly caused by this giant axe. Upon seeing the Minotaur, the mother Regis dragon panicked. She realized that this was a battle impossible to win. She pushed aside a massive boulder deep within the cave, revealing a hidden path leading to an unknown destination. Still trying to run? In your dreams? With that, he hurled the wolf's head from his hand. The wolf's head smashed directly into the roof of the cave. The falling boulders instantly sealed the path, cutting off our last route of escape. This Minotaur could actually speak. The Minotaur scanned the area, a hint of amusement flashing in his eyes. 4 sub-dragons. Just what I need for a skin cape. A sudden chill ran down my spine. This monster possessed high intelligence and terrifying strength. We absolutely couldn't win. We could only find a way to escape. The Minotaur sat at the cave entrance, and using his giant axe, dragged the flaming wolf's corpse over to him. The wolf's body wasn't even completely cold yet. The Minotaur threw his axe on the ground, tore off a wolf leg, and began to feast. He ate while staring at us hiding in the depths, his eyes filled with the twisted pleasure of toying with his prey. The 2 young Regilongs hid behind their mother, trembling in fear. Mother Regilong's eyes were filled with despair. The process of waiting for death is far more despairing than death itself. Mother Regilong firmly stood up and blocked us behind her, wanting to use her own life to buy us a chance of survival. Seeing this scene from the cave entrance, the Minotaur chuckled lightly, completely dismissing Mother Regilong's choice. Soon, the meat on the flaming wolf was entirely devoured, leaving only white bones with scraps of flesh and fur scattered across the floor. The Minotaur picked up a tuft of fur, wiped the blood off his giant axe, and shouldering the weapon, slowly strolled toward us. His movements were extremely slow, but every step felt like it was trampling on my soul, filling me with endless dread. Mother Regilong roared fiercely at the Minotaur. It was the highest-pitched roar I had ever heard. The Minotaur's eyes were full of contempt. The electrical organs on Mother Regilong's back buzzed loudly, and the sound of thunder echoed throughout the cave. A massive pillar of lightning blasted toward the Minotaur. The muscular Minotaur didn't even try to dodge, letting the lightning strike him head-on. He simply raised his giant axe and slashed forward, literally tearing the air apart. Then, with a fierce leap, he landed right in front of Mother Regilong. Swinging his giant axe, he chopped off her tail. But in return, the Minotaur's leg was bitten tightly by Mother Regilong. She let out a low growl. I understood what she meant. She wanted me to take the 2 young Regilongs and leave. Feeling a sharp pain in his leg, the Minotaur viciously elbowed Mother Regilong's back. I roared at the 2 young ones, telling them to follow me, and I quickly led them toward the cave exit. Seeing us leave, the electrical organs on Mother Regilong's back ran at maximum power, which even the tier 5 Minotaur found hard to endure. You crazy bitch. With a massive grab of his hand, he ripped the electrical organs right off her back. Blood poured endlessly from her wound, but she still bit the Minotaur fiercely. The Minotaur was furious. He plunged 2 fingers into her face, gouging out Mother Regilong's eyes. Tearing them from their sockets, he threw her aside and smashed down with his fist. Mother Regilong's spine was brutally shattered. With a leap, the Minotaur jumped to the cave entrance, blocking our path. His eyes were full of disdain. Still want to run? In your dreams. With that, he kicked me who was at the front back into the cave. My body slammed hard against the wall, leaving me dizzy and disoriented. I was covered in wounds. Immediately after, the Minotaur stomped on the older brother's body. The older brother cried out in pain. Seeing this, the younger brother discharged electricity and charged at the Minotaur. The Minotaur smoothly grabbed the younger brother and tossed him into his mouth. The younger brother's body, like a ripe watermelon, burst open in the Minotaur's mouth. The Minotaur's teeth were sharp, his jaw muscles developed. He effortlessly crushed the younger brother. Fresh blood flowed from the corners of his mouth, dripping onto the older brother. Seeing his younger brother die, the older brother furiously activated his back organs, roaring as he charged at the Minotaur. The Minotaur reached out, grabbed the older brother and squeezed hard. The older brother died instantly. I was consumed by rage. charging at the Minotaur while roaring continuously. It was the roar of a true dragon. I spewed flames from my mouth, but the fire landed on the Minotaur to no effect. The Minotaur kicked me away once again. I landed right next to Mother Regelong. The immense force had broken my spine, leaving me completely unable to stand. I continuously gathered wind blades to attack him, but they were all blocked by his heavy armor. I didn't deal a single point of damage. The Minotaur dropped the lifeless older brother and walked toward me with his giant axe. "You little beast, die." Saying that, he raised his axe high and viciously chopped down at me. At that moment, Mother Regelong, using her very last breath, even without her electrical organs, channeled lightning and blasted the Minotaur. This strike was stronger than any lightning she had used before. It was the explosive power of Mother Regelong's ultimate fury. The Minotaur didn't dare take the attack head-on, and quickly retreated. He sat at the entrance, staring dead at us, seemingly waiting for Mother Regelong to finally die. Lying in front of me, Mother Regelong sent a telepathic message to my mind. Are they still alive? Mother Regelong was asking about the two young dragons who had already died. Her eyes had been gouged out by the Minotaur, so she didn't see what had just happened. My heart ached as if it were being torn apart. Even now, she was still worrying about her children. Looking at their corpses on the ground, I couldn't bear to tell her the truth. I calmed my emotions and replied, "They are both fine, just knocked unconscious." Hearing my words, Mother Regelong's emotions settled down. "That's good, then I can rest easy." As she spoke, her aura grew weaker and weaker, until I could barely feel her telepathy. "I know you harbor a great secret. You don't belong in this dungeon. It's fine if you don't want to tell me, but you treated us as family, and I am very grateful to you." I wept uncontrollably. "Thank you. If it weren't for you all, I could never have survived in the dungeon." Mother Regelong forced herself to focus. "Don't cry. The dungeon doesn't believe in tears. Only with great strength can you survive here. I don't know what your devouring power is, but please eat me." Hearing this, my head felt struck by a heavy hammer. My vision even blurred. "No, absolutely not." But Mother Regelong's undeniable voice echoed in my ears. "Eat me. Otherwise, none of us will survive. If you manage to live, please protect them. Take them out of the dungeon. Leave this hell." With those words, Mother Regelong's life force faded away. I stared blankly at her corpse. A deathly silence filled the cave. The Minotaur watched us with amusement, picking up the older brother to slowly taste him, asking me to eat Mother Regelong. I couldn't do it, although she wasn't my biological mother, and we weren't even the same species. After all the days we spent together, her place in my heart had surpassed everything. She had become my true mother, but she was right. If I didn't eat her corpse, I had absolutely no chance of surviving. I thought of my biological father far beyond the dungeon. Even after leaving the Dragon Clan, is it impossible to escape the fate of devouring one's own kind? Enduring the severe pain, I slowly dragged myself to Mother Regelong's body. "What, are you going to eat your mother?" "Ha ha ha." His laughter was incredibly piercing. I opened my mouth and took a bite out of Regelong's mother's flesh. Seeing this, the Minotaur's smile widened. As the meat reached my lips, I felt an intense wave of nausea. It was as if my very soul was rejecting it, but I forced myself to swallow it down. Today, I must kill this Minotaur at any cost. Yes, just like that. Eat it in big gulps. Eat some more. Fatten yourself up so you'll taste better to me. Ha 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 ha. I continued to devour the flesh and blood of Regelong's mother. My skin grew darker, approaching pitch black. Purple runes covered my right foot. My body expanded continuously, eventually stopping at 4 meters long. I stopped eating, my eyes brimming with killing intent. I have now undergone a complete transformation. I no longer belong to any species in this world. I am a dragon of vengeance returned from hell. I let out a deafening roar toward the Minotaur. The massive sound echoed from miles around. A trace of panic appeared on the Minotaur's face. I could sense the fear deep in his bones, but that fear was quickly replaced by rage. "You are not a worm. You are a true dragon. Die, true dragon." I channeled the runes on both my legs simultaneously. Opening my mouth, I spewed forth purple flames, scorching the bone armor on the Minotaur's body. I activated the white runes on my wings, and in an instant, I appeared behind the Minotaur. I slammed my claw down, leaving the Minotaur's back slashed with 3 bone-deep wounds. He let out a loud shout, swinging his axe at me. I flapped my wings to retreat, but the Minotaur's axe still struck me, leaving a gash across my abdomen. However, in the blink of an eye, the wound healed completely. I roared in fury, my claws gripping tightly onto the Minotaur's body, lifting him above my head. I unleashed a blast of purple fire. This purple flame contained both searing heat and the destructive power of lightning. This single strike left the Minotaur on the brink of death. I tossed him aside and pinned him down beneath my feet. "Why did finding out I'm a true dragon make you so angry?" Even on the verge of death, the rage in the Minotaur's eyes didn't diminish at all. "You true dragons, allied with humans, to lock us in this sunless abyss, while you live comfortably in your city in the sky. And you still ask me why I'm angry." He spat mouthfuls of blood as he spoke, yet he continued to curse at me. I viciously plunged my dragon claws into his chest. He died instantly. I had won. I defeated the enemy that had threatened our lives, but I also lost. I had lost my family once again. I forced myself to stand and walk forward, stopping beside my brother's corpse. Looking closely at him, I knew he could never respond to me again. I walked over to Regelong's mother, tears in my eyes. "I've avenged you. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you." Just then, several loud cries echoed from outside the cave. It was a tier, 2 monster known as the Fiend Vulture. They had smelled the blood from the cave and were flocking to the area. I let out a roar, and they scattered instantly. But I knew that more terrifying creatures would soon arrive. I couldn't stay here, but the moment I left, the corpses in the cave would be devoured by scavengers. So, holding back my tears, I devoured the rest of Regelong's mother's flesh. Then I walked over to the Minotaur and tore into its flesh. After eating the Minotaur, a wave of intense heat surged through my body. I could feel the innate talent I absorbed from him stimulating the power of the golden divine dragon. The two talents violently clashed inside me, fighting for dominance. It felt like my body was being consumed by fire. The extreme heat brought me agonizing pain. I stumbled out of the cave and headed toward the river. I plunged into the water, and piranhas instantly swarmed around me. But before they could even get close, they were incinerated by the heat radiating from my body. The freezing river water couldn't cool down my body temperature. I was still burning up from the unbearable heat. As my consciousness began to blur, I sensed a faint trace of coldness from far away in the water. I followed this weak trail of coolness, swimming until I reached a lake. The lake water was incredibly refreshing, giving my entire dragon body a sense of unprecedented peace. I didn't even notice the killing intent lurking within the lake. Under the water, four croc shark brothers slowly approached me. When they were within 2 meters, they both opened their massive jaws and snapped at me. Just as they were about to bite me, my body fully recovered. Patches of dark gold scales grew across my skin. With a flick of my tail, I swatted away one croc shark and tightly pinned the other. Purple flames erupted from my mouth. Even underwater, the power of this attack was undiminished. The croc shark was critically injured by the blast. Its tail thrashed wildly beneath my claws as it tried to break free from my grip. But with my golden divine dragon bloodline awakening, I possessed strength far greater than its own. It couldn't escape my hold. I opened my jaws and bit into it, devouring it completely right there in the lake. The other croc shark I had swatted away also swam back, but looking at the blood-stained water, it didn't dare to approach. It even started swimming backwards slowly. Trying to run? Did you ask for my permission? With that, I shot toward it like an arrow. I opened my jaws and viciously tore off a chunk of its flesh. The croc shark recoiled in pain and desperately swam back. I lunged in front of it again, blasting it to death with a torrent of purple fire. At the very bottom of the lake, a pair of purple eyes suddenly appeared. At the same time, an incredibly powerful aura locked onto me. I looked into the depths of the lake and saw a massive red fish, about 7 meters long. The Tier 5 beast, Shifeli, is swimming towards me at a blinding speed. Using the strangulate ability I just devoured, I leap out of the water in an instant, standing on the shore, staring intently at the lake. The next second, Shifeli bursts from the surface, spreading its wings and flying towards me. I breathe out purple flames. Seeing this, Shifeli can only dodge the fire. I track its trajectory, relentlessly roasting it. Left with no other choice, Shifeli has to dive back into the lake. Shortly after it enters the water, several water columns shoot out, blasting toward me. I quickly dodge them. The immense power of the water columns blasts several deep craters into the shore. As Shifeli leaps out of the water again, I don't give it a chance to retreat this time. Spreading my wings, I activate the white runes and strangulate talent. My speed is now far greater than Shifeli's. I grab Shifeli tightly with both claws, slam it into the shore, and pin it down firmly beneath me. My mouth continuously spews purple flames. In no time, Shifeli is dead. I open my mouth and tear into its flesh. The white runes on my wings become even more complex. After fully devouring Shifeli, my body expands significantly once again. I have now grown to 5 meters in length, and successfully broken through to Tier 5. I return to the cave once more, bid a final farewell to my family, leave the place I once called home, and set foot on a further path of battle. After leaving, I embark on a journey to find the exit. I search for 3 days and nights without a single clue, until, by a small lake, I discover the remains of a campfire. The monsters in this dungeon don't need campfires, so the only ones who could have left this are humans. I can't help but feel a bit panicked. The dungeon monsters only possess brute strength, while humans possess both intelligence and power. They are the enemies I least want to face this early on. However, humans can't stay in the dungeon for too long. As long as I follow their tracks, I will surely find a way out. Following the trail they left behind, I tail them all the way, only to find that they have arrived at that cave.